In Igbo, there is no word for love. There is ahurungi naya, I see you with my eyes. In my family, we didn't say I love you, but we also didn't talk back. Now, I love with my presence, with my time, with my hands, by magicking money into things my loves need. I don't understand I love you unless it translates into sacrifice. After all, I see you with my eyes. I see you loving me with words and words alone.
I'm Ifeanyi Awachie. I'm a writer and curator. I was born in Nsukka, Nigeria. My parents and I immigrated over when I was a year and a half old. I spent most of my childhood in Atlanta. I then went to Yale for college and stayed in New Haven, where I curate Africa Salon and work as a writer. My name. I've had such a struggle coming to accept and embrace my name and think of it as beautiful just because it wasn't an American female name. Ify is the correct Nigerian nickname for my name, but I spelled it Ifie to make it seem more American, and I just never felt at home with my name until I went to college and felt I wanted to go by a more adult version of my name. So that was the first time in my life that I started going by Ifeanyi, which felt really good, and I drew a lot of strength from the meaning of Ifeanyi Chukwu, my full name, which is nothing is impossible with God. And I started becoming really proud of that. My parents kind of carved out a hope and a fate that they wanted for me. I feel a duty to live up to that and protect my name as a result of that. When I think of what about my upbringing was Nigerian, I think hard work was something my parents instilled in me. We did not play any games with school. My parents had always talked about Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, and those were like our three choices in terms of universities that would be acceptable to attend. For me, I just wanted to go to a school that I felt a connection to, and that was Yale. And the more I learned about it, the more attracted to it I was, until I finally got in. And I remember the day I got in, I just like fell on the floor in joy. I was so happy, I was so excited. And I went downstairs and was like dancing. And my mom was like, oh, congratulations, we gotta go to church. There was no point where it was like, let's just focus on the fact that you got into a school that you wanted to get into. Once they got the news, it was on to the next thing. It was on to figuring out how it was gonna work monetarily. And for them, that's all it was about. That's where I was gonna go, to the best option.
Here I am, trying to be carefree black girl, eating cheese and planning trips to California and wasting time on Twitter. And here y'all go again, with your troops of racist mercenaries. So now I have to write another poem about our new life expectancy. In those last 5 seconds, my eyes glued to the screen, that unnamed feeling screaming in my crumpling gut. This video confirms what I know too well, exactly how this story ends.
I just felt that I wasn't black enough growing up and just didn't feel a connection to black culture, especially because I had such a strong connection to Nigerian culture growing up in a Nigerian household. I felt this disconnect between elements of black culture, from music to certain types of dress. I started identifying as black in a prouder way after police brutality became so much more visible in the US. As an African, I really wanted to be part of that conversation and say I am black and I do feel a connection to this. Do I feel free here? I'm starting to feel less and less free here as a black person, specifically as a woman, as those things combined. But at this time, after Alton Sterling and Philando Castile have died this week, and I'm walking around as a black person, I want to move through white spaces and make it to a space where I'm surrounded by other black people so I can be in community with them. I know that I'm calling a certain amount of attention to myself if I wear certain things, if I act certain ways in public, if I go to certain places, and I feel more and more that I want to opt out as much as possible of greater society. American society is showing itself to be very anti-black, showing itself to be xenophobic. So all of these things are pushing me toward, black and African communities, and there's power in that, but there's also fear at play. And so that makes me feel a little bit less free. I think I do have a double consciousness. I do kind of exist as a Black person, and then in a slightly different way as a Nigerian person. Is there a difference between being Black and being Nigerian? In this body, there's no difference, you know? But when I'm talking with a group of Black people and when I'm in a Black space, it's different from being in a Nigerian space. But I think it would be dangerous to say that existing as an American person was different from existing as a Black person. I think the way that we project Americanness to the rest of the world, the image of that is whiteness. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that it's just as legitimate to project Blackness as Americanness. Because for so many in this country, to be American is to be Black, for myself included. And American culture owes so much to Black culture. There can be a gap between Black communities and African communities in the US. And I think the divisions that lead to that gap are not productive. I see a hunger among Black friends of mine, Black people in my community to know more about Africa as it is today. I really want to see Black people become more welcomed by Africans so that they can feel a greater connection to their African background, their African heritage, if they choose to. I want to play some role in potentially illuminating Africa for African Americans and Caribbean Americans and other members of the diaspora. And in my work too, I think it's important for me to be able to recognize Black artists and elevate them in the same way that I work with African artists. I think there's very little known about the first generation Nigerian experience, very little representation of Nigerian life in the US at all. That motivates me because I think we need so much more art to tell those stories. But fundamentally, I just can't identify as one or the other. I'm both. I'm Black and I'm African. There are times when I don't feel Nigerian enough, and there are times when I don't feel Black enough, but embracing both identities makes me feel whole.